Hey guys, Ben BigStuff here. Welcome to another version 2.5 update video. Thanks for checking this out. We've made so many updates to our version 2.5 firmware that we want to go over everything as much detail as possible to give you guys the best information to apply this to your application. So this video we're going to be focusing on using the dwell for controlling your starting line engine RPM. You know, there's so many different varying combinations that we deal with, from street cars to race cars, that we deal with something from 500 horsepower to 5,000 horsepower, right? This ECU can cover it all. So we want to be able to give you guys as much control as possible, especially for the starting line, to really get that starting line RPM as tight as possible. So one of the biggest changes we've made is we've given you guys fully automatic dwell control based on the RPM set point that you have. So what we want to do is we'll talk about where this stuff lives, how to adjust it, how to use it, and we'll look at some data logs going over how this stuff works. So the first thing is, in the system menu, you're going to have a advanced engine RPM rev limit control. Okay, this is where the dwell PID common settings are going to live, and this is where we're going to basically have the adjustments of how this actually works. So a note here is that this only works with smart coil applications, whether it's 5-wire or 4-wire. This won't work with any type of distributor application or an MSD box. This will not work with a CDI box. This is only going to work with something that we're in charge of the actual ignition coil dwell, such as a 4 or 5-wire smart coil. That's it. So don't try to use anything else because it won't do anything anyways. Okay. So when we're down here in the dwell settings and you enable this sucker, you're going to have time thresholds based on the min-max dwell. So I'm going to say 4 milliseconds is the highest, the lowest can be 0.2. Okay, the PID loop will not go above this setting or below that setting. Okay, these gain settings are for the PID control. Don't worry about what a PID loop is. Basically, all a PID loop does is looks at a set point of something. It varies the output to get there. Okay, so in this case, we're going to look at an engine RPM set point. In this case, we're going to vary the dwell time to get to our target RPM set point right on the money as best as possible. Okay, so you also have a number of trigger conditions here. You can say, okay, I want to have it based off minimum engine RPM, minimum TPS. You can have a minimum manifold pressure boost. 50 is a little high. We'll make it maybe 5. You can also enable the custom port editor so that you can have literally any different combination that you want to be enabled. You can also add a delay time. You could also add a delay off time. There's so much other stuff you can do if you enable the custom port editor. And you'll see here that on the custom port editor right now, if I come over here, there's nothing in this section because we didn't enable it. But if I was to come back to my dwell PID common settings and enable it, okay, well, now if I come back over this section, you'll see here that now the dwell PID is enabled, and we could basically say, okay, let's just enable it over 25% throttle. Very simple. But again, you can see here everything that we have here inside these conditions. You have so much more stuff that you can enable this stuff of based on the custom port editor. Okay, there is so much more in here that we can work with in order to actually have that dwell PID turn off and on. Okay, so if we left that over there, we can come back to our dwell common settings. Okay, so this enables it, how it works. This real quick is going to give you a percentage curve. So when it actually turns on, when the PID output is at 0%, meaning that the set point and the variable are perfect on top of each other, we're going to output about 55%. So what that means is whatever you have in your dwell table is going to be about half that. All right. So if I come over here to my dwell table, in the ignition settings section, I've got a dwell timetable. It's all set for 4 just for this example, just to make it as simple as possible. Nothing's being varied. Everything's sitting at 4. Okay. So if I come back over here to my percentage output, when it turns on, I'm going to sit around 2 milliseconds. If I start going over, I'm going to start peeling some out. If for some reason it needed more than 2 milliseconds, I'd be shoving it back in. Okay. And that way, that's going to let you go back up to your 4 milliseconds. Most of the time, it's always going to be pulling it out. It'll never add anything back in. Okay. So let's look at some logs here. With all that stuff turned on, let's look at some logs. So Right now, for example here, this is a race car where we're trying to target 4,500 RPM. You can see here the rev limit active RPM threshold set for 45. You can see back here that it's about 4 milliseconds at idle. It's idling around 1,100 RPM. When I go 100% wide open throttle, okay, we're going to come up here. There's engine RPM going up. TPS up here is 100%. I'm at 6 milliseconds right here, okay? Now, we haven't actually reached our target RPM set point. We want to maintain 4,500. You'll see this line right here at around 4,300 or so. Boom. We now turn on the ignition dwell control. Goes down around 3.7 milliseconds. Now we're on 3.3, and it's holding around 3.4 or so, okay? But that's the dwell automatically bouncing around to maintain around 4,500 RPM or so. There's 4,494, 4,502, 4,475. So you can see here that it's fully automatic. The PID loop has now got control. It's now running. This works in conjunction with whatever you have going for the ETM numbers. So you can see the ETM numbers bouncing around down here as well. So there's 31 full power, there's 25, 31, 20, 27. So it's working in conjunction with the ETM to maintain as flat as possible. And you can see there, that's pretty freaking flat. So within 30, 40 RPM or so, okay? Let's look at another example here. So let's come up here. And here's another one here, for example. So you can see here that this is 4 milliseconds on this calibration. And you can see here that as we start to bobble and weave here, we start to go down to 3 milliseconds. It's right there. And you can see here that now we're maintaining around 1.58 milliseconds. This actual RPM threshold is 2,500. But what's interesting about this one is here, you can see here that currently the active RPM is 5,500. It's because it's a boost builder. We're trying to let the RPM overshoot to make some actual boost, and you can see here this is the actual RPM rev limit threshold coming down. So the dwell sees that and says, oh, my RPM set point is this. That's why it starts to bobble and weave a little bit there. And as we start making more boost and our RPM set point goes down to 2,500 in this case, you can see here it flatlines and we're maintaining about 1.6 milliseconds. So all this is done automatically in the background. You can see how perfectly flat we're sitting right there, 2,500 RPM in this case. Again, it works in conjunction with the ETM numbers, okay, 23s and 24s. But this is fine tailorable so that you can use the dwell to control whenever you're on the 3-step, 2-step, half-step. So all these can be controlled as well, okay? So this is a great feature. This basically makes it so that we can calm the charge time down. Calming the charge time down definitely reduces the amount of RPM that you're going to have based on the setting that you have there. So again, it works awesome. If you have any questions about this, please give us an email. This is available again in our version 2.5 firmware. Just we're trying to make this stuff as adaptable as possible for all different engine types, which is why we put this in this release to really calm down that engine RPM. I mean, again, you can see how perfectly flat that is. If I was to take a quick little snapshot of this right here, you know, the max was 2560 and the min was 2496. So the set point was 2500. That's pretty freaking tight, right? So that's pretty much all that you can ask for right there. But again, it's fully customizable. This can be fine-tuned to match whatever type of combination you do have. So if you have any questions on that, please send us an email at support@bigstufftpm.com. You can also check out our Facebook, Instagram feed daily. We're always posting on that for our guys that are out there racing, our shops that are running our stuff. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. This update will be out here shortly, and please give us a shout with any questions. Thank you very much. Thank you for checking out the video. Bye-bye.